Good evening. It's 5:35 p.m. It's Tuesday night, and that means one thing and one thing only: the end show is live. Episode 5 with Smuggsy and Jim, and we're ready to obviously roll out another edition of our great team Arsenal. Discuss all the good and bad that's happened over the past week and much more. Before I obviously go into the show, just want to say a good evening to Jimbo. How you doing, Jim?
All good, mate. How are you, sir?
I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. Yeah, Christmas is upon us, isn't it? And yeah, it's a busy time of year, so it's like obviously trying to spin so many wheels at the moment.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And imagine your boys getting a bit older as well, and getting a bit more sort of G'd up for it. So you get all those bits and bobs with it as well. But yeah, looking forward to a bit of a Christmas break, mate, as well. But and then obviously the football comes thick and fast, doesn't it? So can just chill out and get our custards on that, and hopefully hope Santa's delivered into Mikel's sack a few wins.
Absolutely. I know obviously you're raring to go tonight to obviously discuss the last 7 days, but all ready for Christmas for yourself, mate?
Yes, mate. Yeah. Got a few days at home, and then holiday for the Christmas New Year bit. So yeah, looking forward to it, and looking forward to a few days off of work and spend a bit of time with the wife and kids.
Absolutely. And just to let you guys know, this is our last show of 2025. We will be back in the new year, and we'll be doing a massive show in the new year to kind of reflect back over the 2 weeks, where it is a massive time. There's a lot of games coming thick and fast, and with a lot of games, sadly, become a lot of injuries as well. So I'm sure that's going to be a dialogue tonight in terms of conversation as well. But let's go back to last Wednesday night, Jim. Club Brugge away, 8 p.m. kickoff. I know we were discussing beforehand in terms of kind of rotation was key in terms of going into this fixture with the game at the weekend as well. Was you happy with the team that Mikel put out for that evening?
Yeah, I think generally like the rotation went into the squad in the main. There was maybe a couple of people that were left out. I think around the time we were talking about it, we hadn't had the Dauman injury confirmed, and I would have thought that would have been a golden opportunity for him to have opened up his Arsenal Champions League account. And then Nervy being the other, who obviously had a brief cameo in the game, but I thought it could have been a good opportunity for him to have started the match. I was excited to see Madueke in there, and and obviously Jesus came off the bench for a short stint. There were some notably good performances across the pitch, and probably most prominently from our two wingers. But I thought in regards to selection, as things go, it was fairly astute, and obviously with the result put out a pretty good team.
Yeah, definitely. It was a comprehensive performance. I actually thought, to be honest, that I was quite impressed with Club Brugge in terms of coming forward. I thought we at one point it was quite lucky that we actually went in at half time at 1-0, because they put a lot of pressure on us, didn't they, in that last 15 minutes of the first half. But overall, a comprehensive win there. Madueke come in, absolutely incredible first goal. Then got the second as well, and that was definitely his best performance in the show, wasn't it, so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Madueke was brilliant. He was by far our most electric player on the evening, and to give him his dues, mate, he has been fantastic when he's played. Really, I know he probably a bit similar to Gyökeres, got injured at the wrong time when he was in a really good moment, but after finding his feet, and especially when he's been over on the right-hand side, he's really made a good account for himself. And you just don't really hear people moaning about his price tag anymore, which is probably the biggest compliment we can give him. But yeah, it was the game was a little bit flat in the first 20 minutes. We were just trying to find our feet a little bit, and go into that moment. I felt like maybe we were one creative player. I think it would have been a great opportunity for Mikel to have gone with like the two two attacking eights to try it out in a bit of a dead rubber game because we were already through in the Champions League. And I think it's been something that we've been lacking a bit in the Premier League with a creative spark. But with Odegaard, Zubimendi and Marino in the midfield. But yeah, I thought, after the sort of 20, 25 minute mark, then out of nowhere, Madueke just has a complete moment of magic and drops a shoulder, skins two guys, and a thunderous shot off the underside of the bar. Top goal, and took his second goal well. So three really good goals on the night, actually, all in open play. Martinelli took his goal brilliantly as well. A really good finish for him. I think sometimes his finishing comes under a bit of scrutiny, but that was an exceptional finish. And then a really well-worked goal, when it's hung up to the back post and Madueke has a tap in for the second. So, yeah, all in all. I'm with you, Smuggs. I went into that game thinking, lucky it's a bit of a dead rubber. I bet at home they could give us a bit of issue, because I don't know where I was, but for whatever reason, I was at a meeting actually. And the match against Barcelona with Club Brugge was on, and it was end to end. And I think they ended up drawing the game 3-3, but they had the upper hand in the game for a long time. They've got a couple of players in their team. I think Forbes was one of them, the Portuguese guy, and Zolis, who was the two wingers. They were really, really lively. We had a really good. A really good night away from home and carried on our 100% record in the Champions League, 18 points from 18. It's another clean sheet, wasn't it? We only conceded one goal in the Champions League to Bayern. So incredible, really, when you think about it, how good we've been in Europe, especially as we're going through a bit of a sticky moment in the Prem.
Yeah, no, it is quite interesting, isn't it, in terms of the Champions League, that we've conceded one goal in 6 games, which when you think of the quality that you play throughout the Champions League, and I looked at Club Brugge and do you know what I mean? They were an absolute threat coming forward. Like the guy on the right-hand side,
Forbes, yeah.
Oh, God, what a threat he was, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like he was causing no end of hassles at the back end of that first half. And our performances in the Champions League have been very, very comprehensive. I think that's the key word I can use. Do you know what I mean? I think we've delivered superbly in the Champions League, and we seem really, really well set up for the Champions League. Look. We know what happened to Liverpool last year. They finished top, and then they went out. They went out in the first knockout round. So you can't rest on your laurels. You know what I mean? Because you are going to play much better teams and much bigger teams moving forward, and you can't dictate obviously where the draw leads you moving forwards. But I do feel that actually that this, like in terms of when we go into the Champions League, I'm always very confident. I was very confident that we'll get the result, whatever team we put out on Wednesday night. It was interesting with Norgard going to the back, and I thought he done pretty well, considering that is not his position. It worked. Like, don't get me wrong, there would be plenty tougher tests, but they did provide a threat moving forwards, and I thought he done really well. And it beggars the question for me that why have we not seen him more? And I know we spoke about this last week, but I still don't understand it. I still don't get it. It does baffle me in terms of Arteta's thinking at times. Like, I'm not gonna go on Saturday, but I am gonna mention it. Like Madueke, scores an incredible goal on Wednesday night, gets a second, puts his best performance in. He doesn't even come off the bench Saturday, mate. Like, that frustrates me. And if that frustrates me, like, what is he thinking?
I haven't got a clue. I mean, look, we'll cover it off when you come onto it because, as always, we'll analyse the lineup and then the performance. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, highlighting the man of the match, I think the player of the week, was such a bright spark for us, was just continually a threat to their left back. And they ended up having to double up over on him. Gyökeres pulled the centre half across as he always does. And then it gave Martinelli that opportunity as well to kind of explore that inside left channel. And, what's abundantly noticeable about the two different types of competition is that because it's in essence a cup competition, the Champions League, there is a slightly more intense need to try and get a result out of every game, more so than building an infrastructure over a 38-game season. So teams play 5 yards higher. If they maintain a block, it's like a mid-block at most. They tend to try and press and play on the counter a little bit if they're slightly weaker opposition to the opposition. But they continually came at us, and we dealt with the lion's share of their threats. I think Raya made quite a good save in the first half. Made a good one in the second half as well. But, but we did get the ability to recycle the ball a bit quicker into the flanks and then create. And that's obviously how Mikel's model works. He likes to have very active wingers. And again, sort of Gyökeres was full of running, but, there's no service there. But I thought, again, that was largely down to the people on the pitch. Went with Merino and Zubimendi in the midfield, which was a bit conservative, I thought. And then Odegaard played kind of in the advanced state. But, he likes to feed into that right-hand channel, doesn't he? And Ben White loves to overlap his winger. And he'd already built up a pretty good rapport with Madueke from the game before, where he set the goal up for Merino, the two of them. And then, the three of them are working down in that right-hand channel. And the central part of the pitch in the left-hand side, and Lewis Skelly's someone who loves to invert and come into midfield. He doesn't overlap. So, you leave Martinelli there, kind of on the overlap. But yeah, look, it was a very, very resolute and well compacted 3-0 win. 3 really good goals, and we managed to keep Bruges out, which obviously has been a bit of a task because Barcelona chipped 3 against them. So a really good result, and actually after the Villa defeat was a really good reaction, which made me think that coming on to Wolves, we took all the momentum back into a home fixture on the Saturday where we could really start building on it. And because we've got a really busy December and a really, probably a really, really integral period where, we've had a couple of awkward results and we need to rebuild some momentum quite quickly because the fixtures come thick and fast, and it's a week before Christmas now, but we'll play 4 times in the Prem, I think, by the 3rd of January. And, will we still be leading the Premier League or not at that point? I don't know.
Like you say, that there is games coming thick and fast. We're looking at this Saturday, Everton. Then we got a Carabao Cup game against Crystal Palace, followed by Brighton 4 days later. Then Aston Villa at home 3 days after that. And like you rightly said, Bournemouth on January the 3rd. And you start looking at all them fixtures and you start thinking about rotation and like the defensive issues that we've got at the moment. And a key area that's going to be a worry for me now, and I know me and you spoke offline around that, is going to be the right back situation, because obviously Ben went off on Saturday and now is going to be out for at least 4 to 5 weeks. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Timber, and I think you rightly said yesterday that they're gonna have to probably play Josh Nichols at right back in the Crystal Palace game, because we can't expect Timber to roll through this whole festive break and not have that break.
Yeah, I mean, it's a position that's unbeknown to Saliba. He's an out-and-out centre-back. Norgard couldn't fill in there, because he just doesn't really have the pace to be able to deal with a winger. So, you might end up seeing Lewis Skelly play there because he's quite 2-footed, maybe, worst case scenario. But yeah, crazy to think that we're 900 billion quid into this exercise, and all of a sudden, we are racking up injuries just over and over again, and I just can't put my finger on it, mate. If I'm being honest with you, as to how, I actually wouldn't be surprised the way he plays if he thought about needing to. If he ended up playing Zubimendi there, actually. Not ideal. Obviously, Mosquera's been out now for 4 weeks? He's got another 3 or 4 weeks to go, hasn't he? So, Yeah, and they're hoping Gabriel's back before the end of the year, which is only 2 weeks away. So maybe that would help free up a little bit. But again, an out-and-out centre half. Mate, what was a funny one, and someone mentioned this to me in a WhatsApp message. He was obviously a free agent for a long time, Tomiyasu, but
Yeah.
My mate mentioned, why didn't Arsenal re-sign him on a 6-month contract because he can play centre half and right back. I laugh, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst shout.
I thought it myself. I ain't gonna lie to you. I thought, do you know what? If it was a week later or a week earlier that injury to Ben happened, I think there could have been potential that a phone call might be made to Tommy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard, isn't it? Because you don't know where he is in terms of his rehab fitness. I guess he's not going to be there, but it is a concern for me at the moment because Timber's had his injuries over the years. Do you know what I mean? Like, he missed the whole season, and to put this kind of pressure on him now. And I know you, for one thing, that obviously when you spoke, that you felt that actually Saturday would have been an ideal time to give Ben that breather, didn't you? And play Timber there due to the volume of games that Ben had played over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought that. I mean, if we're moving on to the Wolves game, I just think he got it all wrong. We spoke about this last week on the show. My desire to go in with a bit of a statement win, really put it on Wolves and go and City had been chipping away at that goal difference quite considerably because the way the results had gone against us, we'd had 3 draws and a loss in the last 5 or 6 games. So our goal difference had been sort of going in the wrong direction or had flattened out. And, I just felt like the way in which he'd set us up, was just a bit wrong. He went with White at right back, and then Timber at right centre half. So then Saliba had to go over to left centre half, which is not his natural position. Hincapi at left back, which I thought was odd, to be honest. You could have rested one of White or Timber in that instance. Hincapi could have played left centre half. He likes a left-footed left centre half and a right-footed right centre half. And Lewis Skelly could have played, because I think Lewis Skelly should have dropped into the midfield. We were always going to have 65, 70% of the possession, so he would have been really effective in that game. He went with Eze, Zubimendi and Rice. There was just no need for Zubimendi and Rice, mate. They're just, no one will convince me otherwise. If Odegaard needed a rest because he's coming back to fitness, absolutely Nwaneri would have been an option. So it would have been one of Rice or Zubimendi. My gut's probably Rice because he's a bit more of a ball player and he's lethal on the dead balls. Eze and Nwaneri or Odegaard. And then Saka on the right, Gyökeres through the middle. And I would have played Madueke on the left because he very much deserved to keep his shirt. So, mate, I just thought it was so flat. I mean, Saturday, you can probably hear from my voice, I'm a bit desolate. I'm genuinely really concerned. We've not looked good for like a good period now in the Premier League. We're shipping late goals. We're inviting pressure on. We go 1-0 up in the game and it's a shut-up shop, which is just an attitude that I just cannot resonate with as an Arsenal team. We've just never done it before. We shipped a late goal at Sunderland because we invited them on. We shipped a late goal at Villa because we invited them on. We shipped a late goal at Wolves and got away with it. It's a real head scratcher for me, mate, because the general consensus in the mainstream media and the fan media is that like everybody is just hanging Gyökeres out to dry. He was the wrong player. Arteta didn't want him. He wanted somebody else. It was a Berta signing. He needs to do more. He's not scoring enough goals. But, he's not, we had this conversation. No one's creating anything for him. We're just not creating anything as a team. Whether you want to pin it on Gyökeres or not, we didn't have a shot on target in the first half at home to Wolves, who statistically were the worst team in the Premier League history at that point of a season. That's mental. We're top of the league. We're flying. I can't fathom how that's happened. And people can say, oh, well, they play a low block and it's difficult. But yeah, that's why you got a 60,000 seater stadium and you're $1 billion squad, because you've got the talent to be able to unlock them, but you then have to at least coach the players and allow them to play with the freedom and the flair to be able to go and do it. And we're enforcing a model that is a territory-based sort of handbrake on model, and looking for corners or just to get our two wingers to the apex of the box and put crosses into the box. And like the profile of every single team in the Premier League is that they have two quite considerable physical centre halves. We're quite lucky that we've got two centre halves who have got a real turn of foot, but that's quite uncommon. Mainly in the Premier League, you have two really big physical guys like Torres and Konza at Villa, the two lads at Wolves, Mascara, Sunderland, Dan Ballard. Like, they are going to love it if you take an aerial duel to them. They don't want a foot race against racy wingers. You've got Saka, Martinelli, Gyökeres and Madueke, who are all quick. Why would you not put them in a foot race against these players? Like, when you're sizing teams up, surely all this data is available to them. The data available in football now is just mental. So surely you'd know that you've got them in a foot race, but you haven't got them in a physical one. And you're either pig ignorant and arrogant and think, no, the quality of the ball will get by them, or you're a bit of a one-trick pony and you're kind of getting caught out. Because we get to sort of November, December, January time, and we seem to have a bit of a different strategy on set pieces, and we score a load of early goals from it. And then we do the same thing, which is the four players at the back. They run into position, they fold in between the line, and the dead ball comes in. But like it kind of gets worked out by about Christmas, because obviously you play everyone twice, and we're at the end phase now of playing everybody once. So everyone has kind of analysed our games enough now to know really what it is we're going to do. So I was watching a catalogue of Haaland's goals earlier, because a lot of people comparing Gyökeres to Haaland, or how does Haaland keep doing it? He does the numbers. That's the kind of world-class strike you need. But I'm watching the goals that Haaland scored, and I mean in the last 12 months, so not at the start, like in more recent times when City have gone for a rebuild. And even this quickly with Shirky there and Foden taking a slightly different row, and then you've got a more out-and-out inverted winger in Doku, and then Reinders playing in the 8. They look to recycle the ball on the half turn into the midfield quickly, and then they often are running at defences after they've pulled them out, and Haaland pulls off the shoulder and he gets technically somewhat one-on-one with his man about 30 yards out, and he steams towards goal. And he scored that goal against us, if you remember, where he pulls away one touch, hits it across Raya. He scored a very similar goal again against Palace. Now, all of his goals are quite signature moves for him, but he gets to receive the ball on the shoulder, running onto it, looking forward. I just cannot remember a time where we've put Gyökeres through on goal like that, mate, where he has had that opportunity centrally to go steamrolling towards the goalkeeper.
It's interesting. We got Charles in the chat. He said, "Good gents, good to see you. Tell me about Gyökeres. Two problems I see: shot volume and defender separation. First is not his problem at all, right? Let's give him that second. He can work. But first, it's all on the team. Our runners, ball progresses have to hold their runs. It's a situation to see his run. I feel our runners, players like Saka, Declan, and Odegaard, all run with the ball to the edge rather than spotting a guy in front. Vertical progression is non-existent with this system. It's horizontal mostly, without vertical progress. How a 27-year-old, not a 90-year-old, let's understand that age also to succeed." So I think what he's saying there is, obviously, first of all, we're not releasing the ball quick enough, and as you said, well, there's been loads of examples of that, isn't there, over the last few weeks? I know there was a lot of footage the other day of Odegaard running on the ball, and you see Gyökeres make the run one way and then try and make the run the other way, and he still doesn't release the ball to him. My biggest concern is actually, someone pointed out to me on Saturday night, we don't put no crosses in, and then we bring Jesus on, and then we whack a ball in a box, and you're sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, why are we not seeing this when Gyökeres is on the pitch? And yeah, I just find it really, really, really frustrating at the moment, in terms that actually he's not being created anything whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? And people can sit there and say, oh, well, he's not getting in the positions, but he is getting in the positions. He is getting in the positions. Our contribution in that final third is not good enough. And how do we work on that to make that happen? Now, I heard Arteta say at the end of last week, like, due to the volume of games they've got, that he hasn't been able to spend much time with the guys on the training pitch. Do you think this is something that he's probably looking at this week?
Nonsense. I mean, I just honestly, like, you know, like, it's just a deflection tactic. It's bullshit.
So like, what is the answer to this? Because I felt personally, from a perspective, that when I see the lineup, I thought it was quite negative in terms of actually you're playing the worst team in the league, and like you said, arguably, pound for pound at the moment, they're the worst Premier League team that's probably existed in the Premier League, with just 2 points in the amount of games that we played. But I get that potentially he didn't want to play Odegaard because he had played so many games, which obviously then bites the biscuit in terms of why I played Ben then, because Ben was in the same situation. But why not Nwaneri? Like, I see Nwaneri come on Wednesday night. He had a massively brilliant impact, in my opinion, when he come on. He was exciting. He wanted the ball. He always wants the ball, and he releases the ball. He comes on against.
But if he doesn't release it, he's always playing on the front foot. He's trying to drive forward. You know.
Yes, he come on against Leeds, mate. He had a massive impact. We end up winning the game 5-0. He come on against Nottingham Forest because Odegaard got injured again. He had a massive impact. We win the game comfortably. He come on against West Ham, which was a bit of a dead rubber in terms of it was a game before the break, but we got the 2-0 job done. But yet again, he showed what he's capable of. I don't understand what this kid needs to do to have a start, but you can't tell me on Saturday night, right, that we needed to play both Subamendi and Rice in that game. It was a key opportunity to say to Subamendi, do you know what? You played quite a lot of games. Start on the bench. If we need you to come on, we'll bring you on. If we don't, we'll rest you. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand why we needed to play both Subamendi and Rice on Saturday night, and I just felt that was a negative outlook from the start. Do you know what I mean? And you look at the way Man City set up, you look at the way we set up, and like Man City will go for the throttle like they did on Sunday with Crystal Palace. You knew once they went 1-0 up, they'll go and win the game 2-3, because do you know what? They'll keep moving forward. Do you know what I mean? They'll keep pushing. And everyone going, oh, well, if Haaland gets injured, but it's not just Haaland that's banging in the goals now. Do you know what I mean? But you've got Phil Foden, who's banging form. You've got their midfielders are really contributing in terms of the way they're playing at the moment. And I just feel that at the moment, actually, our midfield is becoming a hindrance to us, and it shouldn't be. And I honestly do believe at times Arteta sets up the team probably a little bit too much negative for my liking. I look at the games that we've had like over the last few weeks. Brentford. I look at the game on Saturday night. Wolves. You can't tell me that we need Declan Rice and Mendy's playing them games. You can't tell me that we need them playing them games. Do you know what I mean? I want to see Eze and Odegaard play in front of a Declan Rice in games, or Subamendi in games. Do you know what I mean? At home, I want us to go and batter teams. Do you know what I mean? We have got all the ingredients to do that. We got Bukayo Saka, we got Madueke, we got Odegaard, we got Eze, we've got Trossard. Do you know what I mean? We got Gyökeres, we've got Jesus coming back, we've got Havertz. Like, we've got the players to do this, right? And apparently we got the best defence as well, which we have got the best defence. We've probably got the best defensive unit with 8-9 players in the whole world, if we're being totally honest. So why the defensive unit is the defensive unit?
Sorry, Smuggs. The defensive unit somewhat gets all of the plaudits for the work that everyone else in the team has to do. Like, for a year before this season, everyone was saying that he was picking Martinelli because he was covering Lewis Skelly, because he's the best defensive left winger, because he's really good at tracking. He gets back and doubles up his man really well, you know, and he covers Lewis Skelly brilliantly. You know, it's almost like Saka was someone who cut his teeth as a fullback in his early days. and knows how to get back and double up with Timber. You've got Zubimendi and Rice, who are both very defensive orientated. You play Merino often in the team, who is a natural central midfielder, and we signed him for his aerial and duels ability, because in the Liga, it was all about how many duels he won, how many aerial duels he won. You look at the work rate, something you can't argue with Gyökeres, the work rate that he does as a 9 of putting the pressure and the intensity on the two centre halves, so they can't play, just constantly nibbling around them. The only kind of Odegaard, another phenomenal presser. The only one who probably in that team who's in and around the starting 11, who is not probably so defensively minded, is probably Eze. And he gets caught out a little bit with his defensive duties, a bit like the first goal Cash scored against us at Villa, But other than that, all of them do defensive duties, and that's kind of all contributes to. We had this point last week on the pod. We were comparing Merino and Gyökeres, how many clean sheets Gyökeres had when he started, and it kind of all adds up. But to make your point about City, mate, against Palace, Donnarumma in goal, Mateus Nunes at right back, who's a central midfielder, Diaz and Gavardio. Gavardio was an attacking fullback before they've moved him back to centre back. Nico O'Reilly, who more so plays as an 8. Then Gonzalez, who's kind of a natural central midfielder but can play in the 6. Bernardo Silva and Reinders, both attack-minded 8s. Then Cherki, Foden and Haaland. Like that is, he's gone away to Palace, who are a bit of a bogey side for all the top teams. And he's gone about as attacking as he can. He's got Nathan Ake, Out Nouri, Kusanov, Rico Lewis, all on the bench who can play in defence. And he's like, nope, this is what I'm going with. And then even when they're up, he brings Savinho on for Reinders, another winger. So he goes even 2 in midfield to see the game out. He makes a defensive for defensive substitute, 8 Nori, but that's in the 90th minute. And Lewis comes on in the 90th minute. But the game's done and dusted at that point. So, this is what I mean. He sets them up to go and beat teams. And I just think his starting 11s, Arteta, just causes problems all the time. Like, we just don't... we're just not going out to dismantle teams. I just don't understand it at all. I really don't. Like and making that point I just made about getting the wingers to the apex and putting crosses in. We've got a couple of games coming up now where we're going to really struggle. Brighton is one of our next games. Van Hecker and Lewis Dunk, both like 6'4", 6'5". They'll love an aerial day out. Everton at the weekend, Michael Keane and who plays at centre half for him? It's not Tarkowski anymore, is it? He plays at Burnley now. Who's the other centre half at Everton? Oh, I can't think. But Moyes will be happy with them having a fairly aerial day out. Oh mate, that's wound me up. I'm gonna have to check that. But so we're not covering ourselves in glory in regards to. No, it is Tarkowski. He's ex-Burnley, isn't he? Tarkowski's at Everton. Sorry, So him and Keane, they're not that mobile, mate. But they're going to love. They're both 6'2", 6'3", and bloody physical. They're going to love it if we just get to the apex and just stick crosses in all day. It's going to fit right into the way they play. So surely you'd be coming there, and like with this old note about we can't train anymore. Well, he's let them have a couple of days off Sunday, Monday. So Tuesday through to Friday, you got 4 days of training. Telling me that you can't just blend the model up a bit and just get a bit more one-touch football in and just break the line and get in. Because if you can get Gyökeres in a foot race, I haven't seen a single defender physically yet just bash him around and look like he's not got, every single time he's gone one-on-one or shoulder to shoulder with a defender, he seems to have hurt him. So he'll be fine with it if he can get put in the channel and use his physicality. And we were at the Fulham game, you know, and they're about as big at the back as you can get with like Bassi and Diop and that. And he went shoulder to shoulder and bullied them all day long and got a couple of good shots off. Leno made a couple of good saves. He's unlucky not to score that day. But they've got to just do it, you know. Honestly, mate, I think the reason that we're not doing it is because the model is so intrinsic with retaining the football, and they don't want to take a half chance on, which could end up in the ball being recycled and then it can come back at you. And that, I just find it nuts, you know. We have to keep the football and squeeze everything out the opportunity, and the end result has got to be like a foul or a corner so that we've got an opportunity then to score. Because you can't like try a slip pass in or something like that doesn't come off and then the ball comes back at you, you know. So the reason why we've got the best defence in the league is because I think we spend 90 minutes protecting it.
Yeah, we do, and this is where the frustration is now growing, isn't it? And the frustration is growing because when you look at the goal scoring stats at the moment, our top goal scorers on 4 goals is about 3 or 4 of them. Like, let's be frankly honest. What Premiership team has won the league? Yeah, right, where their striker's not scoring any goals. It just does not happen, does it? You need your striker to be banging a certain amount of level of goals to be able to compete and win that title over the course of the season. But I just feel
even if it's not your striker, you know, like you look at Salah at Liverpool.
Salah. Yeah,
his goal return's mad, you know.
Yeah,
so
it'll be someone in that front three. Do you know what I mean? I think Liverpool's a bit of a difference to most teams, isn't it? In terms of like obviously what Mo Salah's given them over the years. But you look at us at the moment, yeah, right, and you think I can't see Saka scoring in every game whatsoever. And like I thought he would start picking up a lot more goals, if I'm being frankly honest this season once he got back fit, but that's not come yet. Martinelli's definitely not going to do it. Like Martinelli starting games for us now is a big frustration to me, if I'm being totally honest, because he's okay in Europe. Do you know what I mean? He's okay in Europe when the teams are kind of like coming out of you a little bit more mid-block and all that, but for me, he doesn't offer us much. He really doesn't offer us much. His distribution into the box, his final ball is poor. And that's probably part of the reason why Gyökeres is not profiting, because Martinelli's never going to find him. It's facts, mate. Martinelli's never going to find him. And you start looking at games like Saturday and you're sitting there watching the game materialise and you're thinking, I can't even see us scoring a second at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And then we get into the last 5 minutes and then we totally transform as a team and we think we've got to sit like really low block now. We've really got to sit deep. Like that 3-4 minutes in that stadium before they scored the goal was embarrassing. Up to that goal, it was embarrassing. It was like, what are we doing? Like we're playing at home on a Saturday evening against Wolverhampton. And we've just decided now, with like 5 minutes to go, that actually we're going to sit really into a low block and just obviously take Wolves pressure. And it's not good enough for me. It's not good enough. The performance wasn't good enough whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it all starts from the selection. And for me, Mikel Arteta has to take some more risks moving forwards. And I'm not saying he needs to do it like away from home against the tougher teams, you know what I mean? Because that's not what I'm expecting. But what I'm expecting is actually when you're at home to Wolves, or you're at home to Brentford, or you're at home to West Ham, do you know what I mean? I'm expecting us to play attacking football. I'm expecting us to put a lot of pressure onto these teams. Just be honest, Wolves didn't have that much pressure on Saturday. Yeah, we had a lot of the ball. But I can't remember their goalkeeper making many saves whatsoever. I can't remember.
The problem was we couldn't hit the target. You know, that was the big issue. But so we didn't make him make saves. But you know, Martinelli had an open goal, didn't he? Like 4 yard out or whatever, and misses the target and with the header and stuff like that. But yeah, we had the opportunities to work the keeper. We didn't take them, but it's few and far between. We're not, but mate, it's because we don't allow them to recycle the ball. If they're in possession and you dispossess them, it's the best time to go and hit them, you know, because they're out of their shape off the ball. If you've always got the ball and you're just recycling the ball across your back line and moving it side to side to side, in between the 6 and the 4 defenders, all they're doing is just refining their 2 banks of 4, and then you've got 2 players hovering. So we're not moving the ball remotely quick enough to warrant trying to break their shape down either. That's the crux of it, and it's just a difficult watch, mate. It's a very, very hard watch. And look, mate, to your point, yeah, one of 2 things is going to happen. He's either going to be forced into making the change, yeah, or he's going to have to do it, because we're going to end up chasing City, which means we have to go and then get the result, because at the moment he's clearly struggling to play in that mantra, like, because he's overprotecting a lead at the top of the Premier League. But if he has to chase City, then he has to maybe change his model. But the reason as to why I think we just continually keep getting all these injuries is because he wants the same 11 guys to deal with, because he's drilled them so well. But we've had this conversation across the shows. You play 10 to 12 extra minutes a game now with the extra time at half-time and full-time, and you play 60 odd games a year now if you're in all 4 competitions. So you just can't do it. It's just, unfortunately, you have to use your squad, and that is where you have to be able to use other players in different moments when you're looking at or scaling the other opposition. You think, look, the data sort of tells us we'll have 65% of the possession. Most of the time will be spent around the midfield or in their half. Like, you can afford to drop out one defensive-minded player, have a more creative player on the pitch, and then just tell them they've got to do their defensive work as well. Like, just coach them. But yeah, it's crazy to me that we're in December and we still can't put a striker in on goal to create a clear-cut chance for him. Well, it doesn't matter who it is. I
bet, like, when you start looking, like, especially like in terms of I'll go back to the Sunderland game. I'm going to go back to the Sunderland game where we go 1-0 down at the end of the first half, yeah, right? And then we come out second half, a totally different team, a totally transformed team. You know what I mean? A team that was hungry, that wanted it. And we absolutely battered them for like 35 minutes that second half, yeah, right? We then go 2-1 up, and then we totally switch. We don't totally switch. There's no mindset into us to think, do you know what? Let's go and get the 3rd goal. Let's go and really put this game to bed and make it.
Even if you don't get it, though, even if their keeper keeps making a couple of decent saves or something, my whole point is that when you play a territory-based attacking model, so you're trying to win free kicks and corners in the opposition's half, when you're in possession of the football and you're in their half, even if they win possession of the football, the chances of them scoring from 60 or 70 yards out are minimal. But if you go and sit in a low block on the edge of your own box and you invite the pressure on you and you neglect the press, so you go and put any pressure on them, well, I would say that the chances of them scoring goes up drastically. So even if you don't go and get the finishing goal, if you keep pushing for it, it's very difficult for them to score when they're defending, But if you flip that narrative and then you say, no, we scored 2 now, you scored 1, you score next, because we don't leave an out ball out there, do we, where we go and try and counter them. You know what I mean? You remember, like, last time we did that, probably to my memory, was when we beat United, I think 3-1 at home, and Jesus scored that really good counter-attacking goal where he flips back inside and we go 2-on-2 against them because they're trying to push for an equaliser. But we haven't left an out ball out there once this year. I can't remember a time last year we did it where someone holds the ball up and then the 2 wingers just absolutely bust a gut to get up and support them. We just hoof the ball upfield and just say, go on and have another go. Bad luck this time, And we're playing like a team that's like in year 1 or year 2 of its, of its build, when we're doing things like that, and we're ahead, and we're like, oh my God, we're ahead. Like, just protect it with your lives. Not 6.5 years in, where we've had like 10 transfer windows and we've spent all this money and we've got all these top quality players, people like Eze and stuff like that, they must be sitting there thinking, we didn't do this at Palace. The fuck am I doing this at Arsenal? You know, I'm a massive club. We're trying to win the league. Why can't we just have a bit of composure and just pop the ball out and control the pace of the game again? Because they'll be frantic trying to get an equaliser, and they'll probably leave a gap in, and you might go and get that extra goal. You're certainly going to maybe get a big chance or a clear-cut chance on goal. You know, I would have thought with 20 minutes to go, when there would have been the perfect opportunity for you to see the Gyökeres that we've seen all the highlight reels of the 100 goals he scored for Sporting, because you go and all of his goals look like they're kind of, you know, through the lines in the 1-on-1 or the 2-on-2 on the break. But we don't. I think he'd be the first person as well where we would go and run 80 yards 3 times in the last 5 minutes to get the opportunity to score a goal like that. But we get the ball on the edge of the box and everyone's miskicking it or just trying to get it out. You know, you look at the goal we conceded against Sunderland, the goal we conceded against Villa. They're so desperately trying to get rid of the ball, they just miskick it or it goes straight up in the air or whatever. It's just dog shit. It's like Sunday league football. It's really, really poor. Like, just, you know, your professional footballers are hundreds of thousands of pounds a week. Like, take a touch, pop it out to your fullback, and then, you know, you go run the clock down and go and play your kind of possession-based game in their half, you know. And if you're there, you don't, you know, you commit one less man or something like that. So you can still have a little bit of the handbrake on, but you're still playing with the ball in their half. You buy a throw in or, you know, you buy a foul. And I don't get it. I can't resonate with the football that we're playing whatsoever. I just don't. We're almost a better team chasing games, because when we get ahead, the football's dreadful.
And this is my point. When we chase games, yeah, right. Then we let the handbrake off. We look a much better team. So you look at the Sunderland game. You even look at the Aston Villa game at the start of the second half. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest. 15 minutes, yeah, right. Aston Villa are all at sea.
Mm-hmm.
Scored a goal, and then it's like, whoa, we need to get back to what we're supposed to be doing. Do you know what I mean? This make ourselves hard to beat. And I think it's been installed so much into them now that they actually go the other way now. Do you know what I mean? And my personal opinion is, yeah, right, that I think he needs to be more progressive in term. He needs to be more. He needs to show that actually he can play different systems. Do you know what I mean? He needs to be able to play with 2-8s, 2-10s, whatever you want to call them. Do you know what I mean? At home, I don't think that actually in many games, apart from maybe the big games, does he need to play, as I keep saying, a Subamendi and Rice all the time? Do you know what I mean? Look, they're going to be playing overall, mate, 50, 60 games this season at the very least. The World Cup year as well is coming in, so players are going to be having one eye on that as well. Like, he doesn't need to play these players all the time. He doesn't even need to play Declan all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, Saturday would be an ideal game, really. We're being totally honest, that Declan could have sat out that game. But he needs to be able to show that he can manage that, and he can play a different system and be more attacking. And do you know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, it's a bit. Like, I know we got the 3 points Saturday, and that is the main thing. But it's a big opportunity in terms of the goal difference. Do you know what I mean? That was a prime game to say, do you know what? It's not just about getting the 3 points.
It's a paper in cracks. It's a paper in crack, Smuggs. Like, the performance was not up to par. Like, it wasn't at Sunderland, Chelsea, or Villa. Like, it's not. it's not. The performance was not up to scratch. I'd much rather see, when we draw games, we leave everything out there, and like we work the keeper 4 or 5 times. Mate, tell me a game that we've had this season where the opposition's goalkeeper has been the best player on the pitch.
A game that the opposition player has been the best player on the pitch.
No, the opposition goalkeeper, as in
the opposition goalkeeper.
Yeah, you know.
No, not really. Like, you know, you come out of games, you think, Jesus, he kept him in.
I think when we beat Newcastle 2-1 was the last time I remember Pope had a blinder that day. You know,
but he gifted us the win at the end, didn't he?
Exactly, but like, you know, until that point where Gabriel scored in the last minute, he'd had a blinder, Pope, and we'd kept creating chances and we'd worked the goalkeeper. I can't think of a game where we just kept working the goalkeeper, and he's just like, do you know what? We just got to put your hands up and say the keeper's just had a world-class day out. But I watch us most weeks, and I think Raya makes more integral saves than the opposition goalkeeper.
And I think that's a key outline at the moment in terms of where we're at. Do you know what I mean? Like
he did against Wolves. He did against Wolves.
Mm.
He made a massive sung against that Chon or whomever in the first half. I mean, how we play the way we play, we don't create much, and then they have one out ball, and 5 of our guys are like busting the gut to get back in, and White ends up doing a hamstring in the process, and Raya makes an amazing save at 0-0. You know, like
this is my problem. Like this wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? Like. This wasn't the case a year ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is why I look at it. And for me, it's not about the striker whatsoever. Like, it really isn't about the striker. It really isn't about the striker for me because, like, just the quality and, like you say, like, the quality of the balls that are going into the box are just not at a level at the moment in terms of.
But they shouldn't be.
And I always go back to where Saka was. Do you know what I mean? Like, so me and you have said, like, Saka's been nowhere near to probably where he was before he got injured. You know what I mean? Like he had good moments on Saturday, and to be fair to him, it was these 2 balls that won us the game. But if you look at Saka's overall performance Saturday, it was nowhere near to what he was doing a year and a half ago, mate. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't look nowhere near as the threat as what he was a year and a half ago. Like a year and a half ago, mate, if Saka had the ball, I'm sitting there thinking most of the time he's either going to deliver a cross or deliver a goal. Do you know what I mean? But I'm looking at his game at the moment. I'm not even seeing him having chances, right? Like big chances. I know he had them chances at Burnley. And let's be honest, at Burnley, when he had them chances, what happened? We played to Gorkarez's strengths that game in that first half. Do you know what I mean? We got him on the ball. We got him in areas. That was probably the best we looked, apart from Newcastle. It was them 2 games, Newcastle and Burnley. But we're not even getting into them areas. And when we do get into the areas, the quality is just not there whatsoever. And I'm struggling, and I really don't want to say this. I'm struggling at the moment to see us being top after Christmas at the moment. Like I'm looking at the fixtures and I'm looking at the games we got. Like Everton's going to be hard Saturday, but actually I think they've got quite a few key players out, so we have to win that game. Do you know what I mean? We have to win the game whether they have players in or out as well. But it's a tough game Saturday, 8 p.m. there. You can guarantee your life, right? That atmosphere is going to be totally different to what the Emirates produced last Saturday. Do you know what I mean? You look at Brighton at home. We've come a crop at them. I expect us to beat them, but if we play like the way we did against Wolves, Brighton will rip us to pieces. Do you know what I mean? We play like that, and then there's Aston Villa now. We got to make the wrongs right there because actually, at that point, if we lose to them again, there's a good likelihood by that point that they'll either be on level points with us. Do you know what I mean, or be above us. So, for me, he's got to change that midfield, mate. For me, it's all about the midfield. It's all about the speed of thought process, releasing that ball, getting the players on the ball quick enough. And I'm sorry, but Odegaard, he looks pretty on the ball for me, and he does all the finesse side. And you look at him, you think, oh, he looks lovely on that ball, but he's got to do much more for me, mate. He's got to do much more for me, and he needs to start stepping up now as captain. He really needs to step up as captain because actually, I know Eze's not cut any fires over the last few weeks, but we was winning games of football prior. We was winning games of football, and at the moment, it's like we're accommodating him back in the side, and it seems to me that actually it's to Gorkarez's probably detriment, if I'm being totally honest. That's the way I look at it. I don't feel like we're releasing the ball quick enough. I feel that we're not getting the ball wide quick enough, and I feel like that when we do get the ball wide quick enough, if it's not Trossard, you know what I mean? Like who else is out there on the left hand side? Martinelli. Well, as I said, Martinelli for me doesn't start Premier League games. I'd rather see Eze start on the left hand side than Martinelli. For me, Martinelli's an impact player. Bring him on in games. That's where he's strong. That's where his strength is. Do you know what I mean? He's just not doing it for me. But it's not just about Martinelli. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's all about that midfield. And you can't say to me, and I think you hit a really key point, Jim, really, really key point. You look at that Man City defence, and it really, when you look at it, you think, that's not great whatsoever, is it? Like, you've got a centre mid playing right back, you've got a player who was a fullback playing centre back, you've got a youngster who's come in, who's, like you said, playing more like into an 8. But the difference is, right, they'll just go and smash teams. They'll go and score 3, 4, 5 goals. And by that point, the other team's like literally demotivated because they know they're out of the game at that point, unless you're Fulham, of course, who did come back against them. But that's the difference, isn't it, for me? That's the difference, that we just allow in our game to put pressure on ourselves. Like, just let the handbrake off. Just let the handbrake off. I'm not asking you to let the handbrake off away from home and all that, but at home, let the handbrake off. Give the players a bit of freedom. Let them express themselves. Because I honestly think if we don't, mate, well, there's going to be a lot more games this season where we're going to be one goal up with 5-10 minutes to go, and then the nerves start kicking in, because actually, like you said, we've conceded away goals at Sunderland. We've conceded, late goals at Sunderland. We conceded a late goal against Aston Villa. We conceded a late goal against Wolves. The doubts are going to start creeping into the players' minds.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the point about City there, but they were away from home at Palace, and they still went and played an expansive style of football and tried to score goals.
Yeah.
And it's always important for them to score the first goal, because then you force the opposition into making changes and they step out a little bit more. And yes, that might breed a piece of quality and the opposition get in and they could score, but it doesn't shake them. They then just go and try and score again anyway. So I don't think it's just about us doing it at home and changing the model away from home. I don't think that'll be good enough. I think this City team look like they're probably ready to go and get 90 points this season now. So
I do as well. I do. I'm struggling to see really many teams that are going to beat them, like the way they're playing at the moment. And like you said, no, you're right. You're right. We should do it away from home. We should do it home and away. Do you know what I mean? But
Liverpool were at their best at the start of the season, where they were 6 from 6, and they had Zlobosly playing right back, and before Isak was fit, and Ekatike played in the night. He had a phenomenal start to the season, and he's coming back into form a little bit now. Got a brace last week, and they're not playing Isak, and Ekatike is keeping him out of the team, and rightly so. And this is still with Wirtz not firing all cylinders. They're carrying Wirtz a bit like we're carrying Odegaard, but they've got enough quality across the rest of the pitch. But since they took Zlobosly out of the right back and tried to either put Bradley back in or Joe Gomez back in, it didn't work for them. Whereby Guardiola has just played a centre midfielder at right back all the time, because he knows that 65-70% of the time they're in possession of football. So he's got an extra ball player on the pitch who's technically a bit more sound. That's why I've always thought we look better going forward White on the pitch. And in recent times, he's played more Champions League games and we score more goals, because he is integral to the attacking play. And I don't think we score as many goals. You look at the way Gyökeres wants them to, he pops in, crowds the centre-halves, pulls them away from the winger. He wants the winger to then go and get a little bit of width so then he can use the space. But you've got Odegaard playing inverted coming in, Eze playing inverted when he comes into the midfield. Trossard and Martinelli pretty much play like inside forwards. Saka wants to be touchline and coming in. Rice kind of plays high up the pitch. He's like, what are you doing? All you guys are just overcrowding you're overcrowding all the space that I'm creating. He's basically just making runs for everyone else to be able to utilise them and never actually put him in. The only times he gets through is when we do move the ball quicker. Calafiori pops it over the top at Leeds. He goes and scores. Calafiori pops the ball over the top to Eze. First time across the face, a goal, bang, goal. Then these other goals have been him just being instinctive and picking things up off seconds in set pieces. Burnley, Gabriel Flick on Atletico. The other one, they get him in the box quickly and he flips his man, and all right, he gets a bit of a deflected shot away, but he muscles it into the net. So, he kind of, when you do get him in his positions, he creates that. They put him down the line once at the weekend. He muscles Mascara off the ball. Mascara almost thinks he's sort of hit him in the throat or whatever. And Saka's trying to all of a sudden, oh my God, he's got the ball. He gets a pretty decent cross across the face of goal. If you're being really pernickety, it's at sort of like knee high. It's not like along the ground. But he flashes it across the face of goal and Saka can't get on the end of it. But if you put him in the channels, he tends to go and create something, whether it be a chance for someone else or a chance for himself. We're just playing. We bought this guy to play him out the game. I can't. And you just can't have a number 9 like that, because the flip side narrative of it is everyone's so scared of Haaland. Everyone else in Man City gets to express themselves. And that's why Foden's kind of coming into his own now, because he's got a creator like Cherky who's just always playing on the half turn and gets creative. He's always trying to move the ball forward. You watch City play over 90 minutes, mate, and they'll play 5, 6, 7 balls where they've tried something out to pop an attacker in over the top or through a line, and it goes out for a goal kick or it's intercepted. It doesn't faze them. They then just go and recycle the ball again and go again. So this is what I mean. What if we got people like Rice, Supermendi, Saliba, Gabriel, Hincapi, Timber in the team? If we don't let them just be good defenders and then get the ball back out and then move it quickly and try and go and beat the opposition, people now know we're a good side. We're a really good side. So they're going to be defensively apprehensive to play in such a way which makes it easy for the opposition. The only team that have done it this season has been Spurs. So you're going to get the ball back pretty quickly. So why not play a higher line and just play the opposition offside anyway? Push them back, push them to break their shape. But we haven't played good football for like 2 and a bit years, Smuggs. We haven't. No. And this is in line with your point about no one goes and scores goals. After Aubameyang had 2 golden boots, but he got over halfway to his golden boot. Up until January when Emery left and then Ljungberg come in for a bit and Arteta joined. Saka's been the top goal scorer one season. He scored 16. But other than that, it's like, Odegaard and Martinelli had that 15 season. Then it's like Havertz 12, 13, Jesus 11. Last year, no one scored 10, embarrassing. Trossard's had one season where he scored 12. It's not enough. Like, that should be your second or third top scorer. You need more goals in your forward players, Having 4 players on 4 after 16 games and everyone's like, oh, we spread the goals around the team. It's bullshit. Like, you spread the goals. You look at when we had Henry who scored 30, Bergkamp still scored 16 and Pires and Ljungberg still scored 10. It's, Vieira would still get 7 or 6, 5, Sol Campbell would still get 3. Like, how many goals do you really expect Gabriel to score? 7 in a really good season?
This is the problem, though, isn't it? Like, we're looking at Gabriel, right, being out, and for me, like, obviously, it's common knowledge. Him and Declan Rice are for me our 2 biggest players that you don't want them injured. You know what I mean? But you can't. It's a travesty when we're all sitting here going, oh, because Gabriel's out, like, we're not scoring goals. But that's our centre-back. Do you know what I mean? That is our centre-back we're talking about here. You're right. Everyone's right. Like, the whole reason we're not as threatening from set pieces, but it's because Gabby's not there. And he does instill so much into that team in terms of the way he plays, the expectation of the way he plays, the passion he brings to that team. He is everything to that team, in my opinion. And it was a big reason why we lost to Paris Saint-Germain, was because he wasn't fit for that. I think if he was fit for that, I think there's a good chance we could have beat them. Do you know what I mean? But how are we talking about a centre-back being the reason why we're not scoring goals?
Yeah.
How are we sitting here talking about a centre-back, but actually he is absolute everything to us, because what he brings to the team, but also what he brings to them with set pieces. From, like, we see the one Declan Rice putting against Atletico Madrid. Do you know what I mean? He changes games, Gabriel. Do you know what I mean? The Newcastle game, he changes games again. But I look at this team at the moment. I think how many of you out there are going to do what Gabriel does if he's not fit? And there's not enough. There's not enough. But you're right. You're 100% right in terms of everyone talks about us spreading the goals around. But it's four goals. Our top goal scorer is on 4 goals. When there was a Henry, there was a Bergkamp, there was a Perez, there was a Lundberg. They were all smashing double figures. Do you know what I mean? Even Patrick Vieira was getting you at least 5 goals from centre mid.
Yeah.
And that's what my concern is, mate, that there's not enough goals being scored. And I'm finding it hard to scope in my mind. How do we win a title if we're going to get to like March, April, May, and our players are on about 8, 9, 10 goals as a top goal scorer?
Yeah.
I just don't see it, mate. I just don't. I really, really don't see it. And I watch us in games, and I think we're just playing on the edge every game. Do you know what I mean? Even Newcastle, mate, we was away there. Yeah, we come out the right side of that game, but it was still a 96th minute winner. Do you know what I mean? Wolves, a 95th minute winner. We come out the wrong side of Aston Villa. We come out the wrong side of Sunderland. Chelsea, do you know what I mean? Like we should have scored a 90-odd minute winner if Timber did take off Goldcrest's head. But everything's all relied on us just nicking the win, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what I mean. We're not, but that's kind of the model, isn't it? Because if we go 1 goal up in a game, we invite the pressure on, and we don't go and finish games off. We've done it 3 times this year: Spurs, Leeds, and Forest. And both the Leeds and Forest games were home. So was the Spurs game. You know, we caught Spurs when they're in a really bad moment. You know, we sort of battered Leeds, and that was a really good display. And we got Forest just straight after having a new gaffer, or they were just about to sack him, or whatever it was. So, yeah, like, you know, we haven't. The only games that we're doing it in is sort of going back to the point. Is like, you know, we look a completely different outfit in the Champions League, but the games have a slightly different narrative around the value of the outcome, because people are trying to qualify for the knockout phases. So, you know, the period of the games is much shorter. You only play 8 games in the group stage of the Champions League, so there's a bit more of a desire or need to go and get a result. If the Champions League was a 38 game season or whatever have you, you know, it would carry on. I actually probably say the Atletico Bilbao game, being the first one of the campaign, was a much harder game, because it was like their first game, and you know, and it took kind of to Arteta's credit, it took, you know, 2 subs coming on in Trossard and Martinelli to change the game up. But you know, we're not going and taking it to teams, even if we're 1-0 up or 2-0 up or whatever. We just don't go and. I can't remember the last time we were 2-0 up in the Premier League. I can't.
What would be if you was to play your midfield at the moment? What would your midfield be like if you wanted to see it week in, week out?
Rice, Eze, Odegaard.
It's quite interesting. I want to see it. Like, I want to see it. Do you know what I mean? I want to see it. We
know Odegaard defensively is really solid. He's very, very good in the high press. He's the kind of person that you want to feed the ball into if you recycle the ball quickly. Eze's very creative and would love the ball on the half turn quickly, running at opposition. He's also very good at finding his front man. You know, I would say the profile of Gyökeres is quite similar to Mateta. He will probably be the player who will get the best chemistry out of Gyökeres if allowed to, and then we can create the opportunities for him to do so. And then I think with the back 4 that we can pick, even if we've got injuries in it, it's more than resolute enough to deal with a counter-attack. So I think that's more than enough. And, you know, we need to score more goals. It's been the same problem for a couple of years. Since 22, 23, so 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, you know, which is a catalogue of about 90 games, we have had an issue of consistency in regards to creating chances and scoring goals.
Yeah.
We haven't done it.
No, we haven't. And that's obviously, this is the biggest issue, isn't it? In terms of us, like, I'd always go back to a couple of seasons ago, mate. Like there was at one point we was like on fire. Do you know what I mean? I remember there was a period of games we was going away, and I know like they weren't the biggest games at the time, but we was going away to Sheffield United, we was going away to Burnley, we was beating them 5-6-0. Do you know what I mean? We had them pressed in their own half.
But what was the difference then, Smuggs?
What?
I know the season you're talking about. What was the big difference then? Because it's a rhetorical question. I know the answer, but do you know what the big difference then was?
What in terms of the team?
Yeah, like why we were doing it then and we don't do it now.
It was playing more attacking football than the team was.
Well, the difference was Granit Xhaka.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously,
you know, you had a right-footed and left-footed double pivot, but you had a player who is sound enough defensively, but historically as an Arsenal player used to get caught out for making just a lot of professional fouls and getting sent off a fair bit. But he had a fierce shot on him in open play, and he was technically very, very sound, you know, and used to describe himself as a deep lying playmaker, you know, someone who could move the ball out to the left wing quickly, or he could hit the ball cross field. And, you know, and he'd pop up at the edge of the box as well. I remember goal against Spurs, he would be another one who crashed the box. So he was a bit of a blend of the way in which Rice and Marino try and do the job. He could kind of do a bit of both of it. And he was the cardinal difference. And you would argue that Zubameni's defensive, Rice is neutral, but Xhaka was neutral, and then they played with Odegaard, who was just allowed to be like an attacking 10. Odegaard's role at Arsenal has changed quite a lot in the last 3 years. He now does a load of defensive work, a lot of pressing. You know,
it's a massive shame, wasn't it, that we didn't get Rice, who was able to keep Xhaka. When you think about it, like for me, I'm even looking at Declan Rice a little bit, if I'm being totally honest. Like, not in a way that he should be in the team, because he should be in the team. But when we talk about that left-hand side of the three, there is still something missing from Declan's game there, isn't there, in terms of that?
Well, I don't think he's allowed to do... I think he's got all the attributes to be in current football, like the most complete central midfielder, so affect both ends of the pitch. But I don't think he's allowed to. I don't think the coach allows him to do it.
I thought it was quite interesting. I'd have loved to be a fly on that wall, like when obviously he steamed in after the game. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd like to know where his thought process was after that game, where his frustrations were.
Arteta or Rice?
Rice. I've not really got much sympathy for Arteta on Saturday night. If I'm being totally honest, I'll be totally honest, I'm not really interested in terms of what he thought as such, because like he put that team out. But in terms of Rice, I'd be interested in terms of where his frustrations really are. Is it because could it be that is he thinking that like in terms of the way we're playing and the style we're playing is not good enough? Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Do you know what baffles me, which is a bit of a lead on from this point? Do you know what baffles me amongst our fan base? I think our fan base are quite entitled to think that, you know, that we've got the best squad, we've got the best team, our manager's like a top 5 manager in the world, you know, we've got the best centre-back pairing, we've got the best defence in Europe. All these things I always hear, you know, and they always just talk about best, and like, you know, everyone plays for the badge and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think actually we have not won a league title in 21 years. So it's not easy to win a Premier League, and it's a bit of a difficult camel to break on the back, you know. But that being said, if we finish second again 4 years in a row, no one even contemplates the ideology that we could crash and burn. Rice has done 3 years. Saka's been at the club since he was an academy boy. Trossard's 31 now. Saliba and Gabriel, Saliba definitely. Mate, how do you not know that these 3 players are not just going to turn around and say this? Like, you know, if they keep Arteta in the club, you know, how do these players not just turn around and say, do you know what, I think I've given everything I can. Fabregas did it. He often still talks about now, like, I was desperate to go and win, and we just weren't in the right place to go and do it. And we kept finishing there or thereabouts. And he left and obviously wanted to come back, but he come back to the Premier League with Chelsea and won everything. So how do you... I think it's madness to me that the fan base just think these guys will just stay. Like they'll finish their careers there. It doesn't happen anymore.
I don't see it whatsoever, mate. I'm really concerned about it, if I'm being totally honest. And it has been a thought process I have been thinking about, especially over the last couple of weeks. Actually, in terms of like this, like if we don't get over the line this year, right, and it's not about if we don't get over the line. We have to get over the line, don't we? There's definitely we have to get over the line this year somewhere in terms of the two biggest trophies, whether it's the Champions League or the Premier League. Like personally, I think you always got to look at your bread and butter first and foremost. The Premier League. I think we need to make the statement there first and foremost.
I think with the catalogue of this season, though, Smuggs, and obviously the data is just abundantly clear. The Premier League is significantly harder for us to win than the Champions League.
But I think that my personal opinion is I think we need to be trying to win the tougher one. Like I do agree with you. I think the Champions League is definitely the easier one out of the two to win, and especially with Man City. And look, there are other contributors. Like no one wants. Let's be honest. No one wants Arsenal to win the Premier League. So when Arsenal come to town and then when Arsenal go away, everyone's up for it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Everton, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, do you know what I mean? Like Manchester United, Newcastle. Everyone wants to beat us. I don't get that same feeling with Man City whatsoever. I don't get that same feeling. But the difference is, right, they'll just absolutely take you off the park. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's much harder for us to try and go and win the Premier League than what it potentially is for Man City, because I think there is that piece. But we've finished second 3 years in a row. Do you know what I mean? Like we've spent a lot of money this summer. We spent a lot of money. We have got a good squad. Does it mean we should win the league? No, it shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't just go out and win a league. Like you said, it is tough. It is hard. But for Arteta, he has to get over the line. And if he doesn't get over the line in the Premier League, he has to deliver the Champions League this year, doesn't he? In terms of he needs to deliver one or the other, because he has been backed now. He's been given a lot of money. He's been given a lot of resource. He's got the players there. You can't say he's not got the players there, because he has got the players there. But it seems to me that he, at the moment, and I do feel this, that he's his own enemy at times.
Massively. Like, we're not adapting at all. Nothing has really changed in the way in which we've played for 2.5 years. And, we were unlucky the first year. We got, 89 points. Last year, we got 74. We were never in a title race. I don't really care what anyone says. We finished second by default, but we finished 11, 12 points behind Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then this year, obviously we're very much in the title race because we're leading the Premier League. But if you don't get it over the line, there'll be a cardinal change. We haven't had a big player leave yet. Oxlade-Chamberlain's still our record sale. Like, either players will go or he will go in the summer. Like, something major will happen. I just can't see them all staying together and just saying, yeah, cool, right, let's go again next year, same thing, I just don't, because we haven't really had any really wonky VAR decisions that haven't gone our way, or anything like that year where that goal at Newcastle with Gabriel pushing the back, or red cards. I'm still a firm believer, and it's just my opinion, that the injuries are our own fault. We should have been more ruthless, like letting Gabriel play in a fucking friendly against Gambia or whatever it was, and then he does a hamstring, crazy. Just tell him no. Trying to have a better relationship with England over the minutes. Like, look at the Arsenal players do way more minutes for England than any other team. Why is that? Because we just got a soft belly. Rice and Saka just go out and do massive minutes for England. So, mate, Pickford was out here, in the second game, he plays for Everton, playing golf on my golf course.
Here's a question, though. Here's a question. At the moment, Who do you think's favourites?
City.
Yeah,
because we've got
I tend to agree at the moment. I tend to.
They're 2 points behind us, and we've got to play them at the Etihad because we didn't because we went all negative against them at home, and we were lucky in that game. That was where Martinelli really affected the game off the bench. A brilliant ball from Eze and a great goal. But I would say that they're 2 points behind us. The next 3 or 4 games, they've got past Palace now. They look like they've got 3
banana skin.
They've got 3 quite favourable fixtures now from memory.
I know they've got Forest away, but they've got West Ham at home this week. So
West Ham at home, so you fancy him for that. Then they're
Forest away.
Away to
Forest. They've got someone else away after Forest away. Let's have a look.
And then they're away to Sunderland. That'd be quite tough.
So we're really hoping at the moment,
we're on to Villa that week. So
these 2 away games that they've got coming up over the Christmas period that they're going to cut. You got to hope that
Then we're away to Bournemouth and they're home to Chelsea. So
so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Like when we come back, obviously after outbreak, it'd be quite interesting to see where we kind of situate at that point, where they situate and where Aston Villa situate because. We're not even thinking about Aston Villa. To be fair, they have got 3 tough games coming up themselves. I fancy them to beat United at home at the moment, but Chelsea away and Arsenal away is going to be a tough ask for them over the Christmas period. So it'd be interesting to see where they kind of situate as well. But at the moment, as we talk, Aston Villa are in a title race.
Yeah, there they are, absolutely, and they're definitely people who can affect the title. That's for sure. So. Yeah, we just have to see. Look, mate, all this could be very different. We could go and put a really good performance on Everton. He's had a week of training with them. We come out of a completely different style. And this whole hour-long conversation is just kind of redundant. But, and I hope that is the case. And we're talking offline and then getting ready for our next show and saying, look, he's identified it. He just wanted to get through a quick string of games. And now the team are adapting a slightly different style, and we're going and getting it done. But we need a string of 3 wins in a row in the Premier League. Doesn't matter how we kind of get them done. We need to beat Everton, Brighton, and Bournemouth and Villa. We need to go and win those games. Bournemouth look a little bit more fragile this year, but have still got a load of threat going forward. So they've got to exploit that. So I'd expect a high-scoring game there. I think they'll get 2. So we've got to go and score 3 in a game. We haven't done that for a little while in the Prem. I'm trying to think when last time we did it. So, and Brighton at home, I think you're right. I think they've got. I think if we don't adapt the style and play a bit more along the carpet and a bit more of a quicker tempo in our game against Brighton, I think Duncan van der Hecker will have a really good game against us. So
Christmas games over the Emirates are always kind of a worry for us, isn't they? I think. Do you know what? I think what you just said initially. If we get if we can get a good performance at Everton and get back to winning ways away from home and get a really good win there, I think it kind of changes the mood, don't it? It kind of changes everything in terms of that we're back to winning ways away from home. We've got a good win under our belts, and it takes in some 2 home games, and it might just be that difference maker, mightn't it? With players coming back as well. I know Kai should be back soon, but obviously can't expect too much. But yeah, again, it's going to be a big player going into the second half of the season. But I think this Everton game is absolutely massive at the moment. Is absolutely massive because if we don't come out the right way of it, not only potentially it's another bad day on the road, but we're not going to be top of the table at that point. And then there's going to be a lot of talk. Do you know what I mean? In terms of where we was a month ago, everyone was saying that we was dead favourites to win the league, and then within a month, we're not even first top place. Do you know what I mean? So I think this game against Everton is massive. I think it's absolutely massive. Get the 3 points, get out there, but get a good performance going, and I think it changes the whole mindset and the whole mood. Do you know what I mean? And we can look forward to the Christmas fixtures. But yeah, if we don't come out there with a win, mate, then I dread to think at the moment. I'm actually. Do you know what though? I've got a bit of confidence that we'll go and win there Saturday night.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. What, mate? Let me ask you a question. The League Cup game against Palace on the sort of night of the 23rd. What? Bearing in mind where we're at the moment with squad and depth and stuff like that, do you put a proper full strength side out against that because it's a cup and it's a trophy, or how do you play that game?
I'm struggling to see Palace even putting out a strong full strength team first and foremost, because when you look at their games, they've got Thursday night, Saturday night, not even 48 hours, and then us. So I'm struggling to see them putting a full strength team out, which I think then would kind of manipulate my mindset in terms of what I would do. I don't think we can risk putting the full strength team out, mate. But I think that's a tough ask to ask Palace to play in Europe go away to Leeds and then come to us in the space of 5 days. I really, really do. I think he can flexy the team a little bit. I think, as I said to you, I think we're going to have to do something quite creative with the right back role against Palace. Whether he brings in one of the youngsters to play there, would do that. Obviously, Kepa's going to play in goal. We know that much. Skelly, I'd give a run out of left back in that game for sure. And then obviously you've got the centre backs, haven't you? Like, I think with the centre backs, I think you haven't really got much options, have you? So I think he might have to play the centre backs in that game, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah. But I think when you start looking at the midfield, again, it's a game that Norgard can play, can't he? He can play that game.
And Norgard could maybe even play centre half again, because he did a pretty solid job there the other day. So,
well, that could be a big option, mate. To be fair, that could be a big option in that game. And then, I think obviously we've got enough midfield options. Do you know what I mean? You've got one area, you've got Marino, you've got loads of players there. I think Jesus will start up front in that game. I think that'd be his first start. I think he'll definitely start up top. And then obviously Madawaki will play in that game on the right. And I think Martinelli will play on the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a bad team, but I do think that actually, I think both teams are going to have to kind of rotate. I don't know if Palace have really got that many players they can rotate, but that's going to be a big struggle for them to play 3 games in 5 days.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So, but I am on the belief, though, that I think we do need to get over the line with one trophy and get the League Cup in the bag would be brilliant, wouldn't it? It'd be brilliant just to get one trophy away before we go into the final straight of the season. We're in the Premier League and the Champions League, but I don't know. There's some good teams in there still, isn't there? Like, you look at it, there's Newcastle still in there, Man City is still in there. I think Chelsea is still in there. So you're going to get a tough semi-final, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's never easy winning a competition, as we keep finding out.
What do you think in terms of that Palace game? Pretty much the same?
Yeah, I think he's got to rotate a little bit, but I think I still think his priority will be the Premier League, and it will be. I don't think he'd change too much. I think he's going to try and play a fairly similar team now and through to January. I'm not sure whether he's going to go into the market in January or not. There might be a utility defender have to come in. But Kepa will play. But we're a bit scarce in defence in regards to there.
I do think if you play Saliba and Kepa in that game, I think then actually, do you know what I mean? You can afford to probably play Josh Nichols, do you know what I mean, at right back in that game. I think playing Timber would be a big risk.
Yeah, they've got to be really careful with Timber. They've got to be really, really careful with him. So, but we'll have to wait and see, mate.
Yeah, we definitely have to wait and see. Right, just finish up the last part of the show quickly in terms of Ask Jim. Sadly, there wasn't many questions this week, so it will be quite a quick one.
I had one come through as well from Bilal.
Okay, cool.
Which was, is there anything that can be taken from our impressive Champions League form to improve our concerning Premier League form? Which we kind of covered a bit in the show, but I think to answer that, fundamentally, it's not so much on our side. It's again, I don't know what you think, Smug, so we'll do a bit of an Ask Smug's reverse on this. But my personal opinion is that I think the teams in Europe adapt a slightly different style where they don't endorse a low block. They play a little bit higher. They're trying to score goals because it's a cup competition, and it suits the way in which we're set up and we're structured to be able to express ourselves a bit more, because we've been able to score, for 18 odd goals in 6 games in the Champions League. Don't get me wrong. The game we played against Bayern was electric and everyone was absolutely on their games that night. But, everything from the atmosphere to the tifosi to the red action in the stadium, they made it like a miniature cup final. So, could we embrace that a little bit more, and at the home games just like really put the hammer down a little bit at the stadium to create a more electric atmosphere to put the opposition under, and also give the boys a bit more of a cheer up. But we just move the ball a lot quicker and with a lot more assertion in the Champions League than what we do in the Premier League. And I think he needs to maneuver the strategy a little bit and just take it to the opposition a bit more so than invite them on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree in terms of like the way teams set up in the Champions League to the way teams set up in the Premier League is chalk and cheese. Do you know what I mean? And it probably shows why we are so good in the Champions League at the moment and why we got the record we have. I think going on to your point in terms of the atmosphere, and I'd even go to the club a little bit. I just feel yet again, mate, on Saturday night there was a good example, to just put out there, right, that actually it doesn't matter who you're playing. Like, we're going to turn up. We're going to make it an occasion. Do you know what I mean? We're going to make it intimidating for Wolves, and you're coming to our home ground. But there was nothing. There was nothing from the club to start with. The fans turned up, and mate, honestly, I like starting the chants and all that kind of stuff. It was like pulling teeth in there Saturday night, mate. It was absolutely abysmal, the atmosphere in there Saturday night, and that's down to us as a fan base, mate. As such, like we see our away fans like some of the best in the country, mate, by a country mile, mate. We produce as away contingent, week in, week out. But at home, if it like you're sitting there and you're thinking you can all turn up to Tottenham Hotspurs, do you know what I mean, and sing your lungs out because we're playing our rivals, but where are you on Saturday night? Do you know what I mean? Like people strolling into the stadium 10, 15 minutes in. You see people steaming out at night on the 90th minute. Now, I get the frustration because at that point you're thinking we've cocked this right up. Do you know what I mean? But we haven't won a title in 21 years, like you said. That's the entitlement, mate. That's the entitlement that actually, as fans, we think we're just going to turn up and we're just going to go and batter them out of the park. But I just felt from the very get go that there just wasn't there was no vibe, mate. Do you know what I mean? There was no vibe. There was no spirit. I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more, right, in terms of the games that actually we believe don't really mean that much, like the games against Wolves, Brentford, and all that. Don't just do it for the big games. Try and do different stuff. I do think that's something that we can do better as a club and a fan base. But I also think that it's quite interesting, isn't it? I watch Man City, like you said, Jer, right? And no club sets up a low block like they do against Man City. Like, how many times
do they though, and they just break it down so you don't see it?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. How many times you've seen Ireland go one? I was watching the Bournemouth game the other week, and I was like, there's no way they'd let Gorka running like that. There's no way, mate. And you got Ireland literally running on his own, like from 20, 25, 30 yards from goal.
But they pop the ball around the corner a bit quicker. The 10 drops in the pocket, plays on the half turn, and then he pops him through, mate. And the ball moves a lot faster. So I think it's uncomparable because how quickly they move the ball through the lines and through the spine. The ball pops around a lot quicker. To counter what you've just said, and I can hear it, but like you don't see the ball just sitting on Diaz and Gvardiol's toe.
No, you don't. They do play forward, but I think this is the problem where we've let teams kind of suss us out, haven't we? So like every team now knows, like, do you know what? Let's just sit in a low block and we're just trying to counter attack them as such. Do you know what I mean? But like as I said to you, mate, I think we actually got a much better chance in the Champions League if I'm being totally honest, in terms of like silverware. Like I think that we're so tactically set up for the Champions League, and it's like sometimes I actually think they're probably in Arteta's mind. That's what he wants is the Champions League.
Yeah, maybe. Like, you know, I think he probably wants to win every competition he's in, but
of course he does. I think the team he's set up is much more set up to win the Champions League for sure.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the problem comes when we start playing an English club. Do you know what I mean? That's where our problem will be. And we've always found that out at Arsenal in terms of I don't think we've ever beaten an English club, have we? In Champions League. That would be our problem if we get an English club.
Not in the knockout phase, no.
No. That will be our problem if we had to face another English club, in my opinion. I look at the rest of it, look at all the other sides, and I think, do you know what? If we had everyone fit, I think we could go all the way. It would worry me if we got a Man City or Liverpool as such. Like, I know Liverpool ain't in the form they're in, but still, there'll be the games that would worry me in the Champions League.
Yeah. What else we got?
I've got a question from George. My question is, why do you think we seem to struggle in November and December? Seems like a regular occurrence, seems to always be in hand with injuries as well. I think key piece there as well. Bit of squad rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the games come thick and fast. You've had 2, sometimes 3 international breaks as well within that. So the load on players now is really considerable. And there's the lack of rotation, and also just my opinion on this is that like we don't really have a plan B or a plan C in games, and we endorse like one style and try and be really good at it. And teams are just working out more and more now how to play against it. So also the opposition gets better and better and better. You look at the money Sunderland spent this year. Forest had a great season last year. It's not them this year, it's Sunderland. You know, teams like Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, now they're all really difficult to beat. So the Premier League is so competitive throughout the entire league. But it means that, yeah, but the last two years mainly, we've had a real issue with keeping players fit for periods of time. And it's not like, he's got a niggle and he misses a week. They're all missing 4 to 6 weeks, you know, or they need a surgery. It's not, you know, so then you have no match football for 30 to 45 days. And, you know, then you've got to go and refine all your match sharpness. You'd argue that Gyökeres is just trying to get his match sharpness back now after missing 6-7 games. So, you know, and hopefully he's there now because he's sort of figured in 3 games. But, you know, if they don't rotate better, use the squad better. All these things are ancillary elements, Smuggs, of the points we've just mentioned. So when we only go 1-0 up and then we sit in, the intensity of the game lasts a significant period longer. When we go and beat Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and we're 3 up after 50 minutes, like you can control the pace of the game and you can like start getting into like zone 1 of the players and they can be recovering. If you're 1-0 up and the game's incredibly intense all the way through to the 90th minute, there's just a lot more intensity in the game as well. So you're asking a lot more of them from an outlet perspective as well. So you're not even really like, you know, I would kind of put it down to playing smart because you don't see games off early. Like we don't go 2 or 3-0 up at half time, and then you can die the game down. We've gone behind in the last couple of games, or we're winning in injury time. So it's a significant period of time where you're always like really, really intense. So they could be better at finishing or being more clinical in games earlier on, which would give them more rest. They can rotate the squad better, which would help. And they're going to have to do something about the injuries we're getting because, like I've said the last couple of weeks, the biggest concern to me and the catalogue of injuries that we've had over the last couple of years is it's not like an Aaron Ramsey or an Eduardo tackle that are putting people sidelined. The Musiala, the most obvious one in recent times, against PSG. These are all like people are pulling up with hamstrings and groins, you know. So was a pitch at the Emirates too firm? You know, is the grass at Colney not good enough for them? Are they wearing the wrong boots? Is the training schedule too rigorous? You know, even though Arteta says they're not training, is there a problem with the recovery? I don't know, but we're losing a player every week at the moment. You know,
Yeah, we are, and it's quite interesting. He said about the Fisher Circle, wasn't it? And the Fisher Circle just seems to spiral more and more. And when we talk about it now, like the right back situation, that's a proper Fisher Circle. But like you said, like I think like moving forwards, like there ain't going to be no time to even think about a break. You know what I mean? Like we're looking at the most intense time of the year with the Christmas festival period. And if we do beat Palace, then we're probably looking again, like we did last January, at least 9-10 games in January. It's a lot of football, isn't it? It's a lot of football in a month and a bit.
Loads. I mean, a huge amount. And then, but you've got like 2 Champions League games. You don't need to take any of these players too. You know,
No.
you don't have to go and beat Milan. It doesn't matter. Like sometimes it's okay just to set up and just have a game as a bit of a passenger. Like the recovery and the time to get the minutes back in the legs of the other players is considerably more valuable. And it's a great opportunity to let fringe players express themselves and try and play themselves into the team. You know, I remember back when under Wenger or whatever in League Cup, FA Cup or sub matches, he'd literally changed the entire 11. You know, he used to have field like, remember that time we beat Sheffield? Sheffield United in the League Cup is the one that stands out most. I think Carlos Vela scored hat-trick.
Yeah.
And like Wilshire's playing central midfield at 16. You know, Ramsey's on there at 17. You know, I think Fran Marida's on the pitch. Nabry might have played some minutes or whatever. It's just like, you know, it's like he's changed all 11 men, and we still look mega, you know, because he's telling them this will be your opportunity to shine, you know, and they try and take their chance. Like I imagine Dowman's pretty frustrated in the GCSE year. He's had a phenomenal pre-season. He's all over the news, and he just keeps travelling to games and just not ever getting on as well.
Got a next question for you from Jonesy. Who would you sell? Would you bring anyone in January? Is there anyone you think that could go out the door in January? I don't really see anyone getting sold in January. I
don't know. I mean,
if
a really good offer for Martinelli come in, I'd be open to listening to that. I still don't think he's the finished article and the answer to our left-hand side. And if it meant that we went and bought I was having a conversation with a mate of mine today who listens to the show, Smuggs, and he loved the point that you started it, and then I kind of put my own piece around it on the Alexis Sanchez. Imagine if you had Alexis Sanchez in this team now on the left wing. You know, I think because he made a point saying not only would he give you all the output that we're maybe missing out on, the intensity levels, like in game, he would just lift everyone else on the pitch because he just had the ability every 3 days to play at 100 mile an hour, and he pulled everyone else through the game. And I don't know that a left winger exists in European football. I'm not quite convinced, even though people like him, that Semenyo would be the answer. I don't think he's. I think it'd take him a real while to step up. I think I've read that Vinicius at Madrid is sort of saying he doesn't want to sign a new contract and he wants to leave. That would be an incredibly high-profile star signing. You know, I don't know who the left winger is, but I'd still say that we've still got a few question marks over this left wing position. Now I've watched it more and more. I actually want Eze to play in the left 8. And we rotate Zubimendi and Rice, and and Odegaard plays in the right 8. You know, I really think that with the amount of games we play now, even away from home, we're so well respected now. We dominate the football so much. We do not need to have like a double defensive pivot. I think there's absolutely games when you're playing like City, Liverpool, other teams like that. You need to be structurally really sound because they'll come and play against you. But I think 10 to 15 games a season, home and away, you can probably go with 2 attacking 8s to try and beat the opposition. So leaves a question mark over on that left-hand side. And Trossard's had a brilliant season, and I think he's probably our first choice left winger. But he's not he's not going to stay young forever. I think he's just had his birthday. I think he's 30 or 31 now. So
31, yeah. I think it's quite interesting we talk about like when I think about just having like someone like Rice or Subman sitting there, I go back in like 2016, and Odegaard doesn't need to be much different than what Cazorla used to do in midfield. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, he'll just pick up the ball deep and make things happen. That's what Odegaard needs to do. And sometimes I think this is part of the problem because Odegaard likes to go deep for the ball, don't he? Where actually, if you've got Odegaard and Eze sitting in there, it gives Odegaard the authority to go deep for the ball, start it all up, and get the right players into the game, like the Eze's. I'm just not sure if that's in Odegaard's game to release that ball quick enough, and that's what I want to see more out of him.
I think comparing him to Santi Cazorla is a bit of a discredit to Cazorla. I think.
Well, no, it's not in terms of. I'm not comparing him to. What I'm saying is, though.
Yeah, no, but I don't think he's got the. I don't think he's got the football IQ plus the technical output to be able. You know, Santi was so two-footed, so he gave you such a dimension because he could go both ways. I keep thinking about this, like about having someone who could be defensive but also as effective going forward. And the player that impresses me the most in the Premier League who does this, I think Sandro Tonali at Newcastle.
Good player.
Yeah, you know, and I think he's someone who would like still give you that defensive assuredness that like Arteta likes, but I think he's someone who picks the ball up and he drives directly at the opposition. And I actually think last year and a bit of the half season before that, Declan used to do that, and he used to pick the ball up when he was folding into the left eight a bit more, and he'd drive really directly, you know. And I think someone like Jokeris would love that because he'd like to just peel off his centre half and get in between the fullback and the centre half and open his body up to get an opportunity to get played in and get a shot off and goal. But Declan's not really doing that as much now. He tends to travel 10 yards in a slightly left-hand side, and he pops the ball into Calafiori. We really miss Calafiori against Wolves, but this is my frustration that we don't look as good going forward after spending £1 billion because Calafiori and Gabriel weren't in the team. And that doesn't really make sense to me. You know, we wouldn't have said this in 01-02 if we had no Ashley Cole and Tony Adams. You just, you know, it's like you wouldn't think. You think, oh, maybe we're a bit like, maybe we're, you know, we're a little bit frail defensively because you've got their understudies coming in. But you wouldn't have thought like in that day and age that would have affected your ability to score goals. You know, whereby now it's like we don't look like the same attacking team when Calafiori and Gabriel aren't in the team. And that's because probably we've still got this over-reliance on set-piece goals. And Calafiori gets on the football so much in this side. And it doesn't really make sense to me why you've got players like Eze, Odegaard, Rice in there. You know, why you don't want your best footballers, like your technically most assured footballers on the ball, you know? Why do you want it to be a left half? I'm just struggling, mate. I'm just really struggling with what our model is.
Mind-boggler, mate. It's a mind-boggler that we're talking about two defenders transforming the way we attack.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. Right.
There's a good question from Jonesy, and I think, you know, that's probably the best one we've had. Like, I think look. It's always easy to go into FIFA mode and just think, you know, I would because he's had an okay half season and he scored a few goals. If it led to like a 50-55 million pound offer for Martinelli, I'd be inclined to take that money because I think we still got Eze, Madueke, and Trossard who can play left wing. So it's not like we don't have enough there, but that would give you the money to be, you know, and actually Jesus, mate. I know you want to see potentially Jesus in the left wing, you know. So I think we've got a vast number of players who can play there. So from a sales perspective, I'd probably look at that if I'm being honest.
Last question.
Yeah.
Do you see AI is changing the world rapidly, making unthinkable things possible. Do you see it changing football for good? And if so, how?
I think that teams are already integrating AI into their infrastructures with the way in which they deliver data and the way in which they try and plan ahead and look at different scenarios. So, but football's still so manual, and and artificial intelligence is only as good as the information that's given to it. So you think it will continue to evolve, but I don't think there'll ever be a day where you have like a robot manage a football team or anything like that. But I think the data that probably goes into, scouting teams, picking players up or looking for players that do certain amounts of duels or information, as long as data stays sound as the way in which you can collect it, then I think you can use it. So, yeah, scouting teams, maybe doctors, recovery, nutrition, all those things can probably utilize elements of AI and things like that now. But I don't think it will ever control a football team. But yeah, good question as well, that.
Cool. What's your winner?
Last one's good. I quite like that. But I did like Jonesy's question because I hadn't really thought much about the transfer window, so I'm going to give it to that.
Cool. So yeah, well done, Jonesy. You will go into the old the wheel. We will have one more on our return show, and then after that, we'll do the spin of the wheel, and we'll see who will win the ticket to come and watch an Arsenal game with myself and Jim.
Lovely.
Obviously, thank you very much tonight, mate. Been some really good debate. That's nearly 2 hours, mate, that we've sat here discussing Arsenal. Yeah, lots to digest tonight, wasn't there?
Yeah, loads to digest. A lot going on. Obviously, in a bit of a phase and a moment at present where I would just probably say that we're not bricking it, but there's just an element of nervousness around just wanting to see just some subtle changes just to get us back on track a little bit. So I think we go into Everton just with a little bit of anxiety. But if they can, train well this week, get some rest in their legs, and we can get a performance together, then we can just stay on the straight and narrow. I think it's really important for us to lead at the end of the year. So I'm sure Mikel and the team know that as well as anybody. So. Yeah, look, all I can do, mate, is wish you and the family a very happy Christmas. No doubt we'll talk quite regularly anyway. Everyone in our community, in the Arsenal community, a very joyful, festive holiday, and hopefully 3 points everywhere, and a bit of good grub and booze.
No, absolutely. Same to you and your family, mate. Hope you all have a good Christmas, have a good time away as well. I'm sure there'll be a few pictures to show.
Yeah.
Definitely a few, but look, obviously, as we said, Saturday's a big game in it. It'd be nice to go into our Christmas lunches or Christmas dinners, top of the league, and look forward to obviously the rest of the fixtures coming out 2025 and going into 2026. But also, we will be back in 2026. So
absolutely,
we will be back. I believe we're going to be back following the Bournemouth game potentially. Is that correct?
I think so. It's the
5th, January the 5th.
January the 6th, I think it is.
Is it January the 6th? Yeah. So there'll be a big game. There'll be obviously a big show that week, and it's right on top of the Arsenal Liverpool game as well. So that'd be an incredible show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we play Bournemouth on Saturday the 3rd. So and then we've got Liverpool that Thursday night, I think, haven't we? So big week that.
Massive week.
They just come fast now, don't they? So
they do.
All right, pal. Well, look, all the very best to you and yours, mate. Yeah, and to everyone who tunes in and listens and gives up their time for us. Wishing you all a very safe and joyful end to 2025.
Yeah, and I echo that. Merry Christmas to you all, and we'll see you next year. See you later, guys. Good night.